Okay. We left off Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. As the lines get wider, the third line. Just some background. We just began this. The Mishnah says in Makos, in Sanhedrin, that if you have a group of witnesses, the Torah says regarding testimony, Al pi shnayim u'shloshet yumas hames, through the testimony of 2 or 3, the person will be convicted. The guilty party will be convicted. So the Mishnah asks, if 2 is sufficient, what does it have to say 3? To tell us that although 2 is sufficient, but if in the group you find one witness that's not qualified, you have 100 witnesses, and one of the 100 is not qualified either because he's related either to one of the other witnesses or to one of the defendants, or he's puzzled, such as he's a thief, or another level of validation, not because he's related, he do some betela. The whole group is canceled out. That's not big. And where's it learned from? Because just as if you have 2 and one is found to be not qualified, there's no testimony. So when you have 3, if one is found to be not qualified, the group is disqualified. Right? It's the Mishnah Malkus. So the Gemara asks a question. This is like in the Havamina. The Gemara asks that if you have 2 people witnessing a person committing murder, and the victim, he witnesses, he sees himself being murdered. The man shot him in the heart. So the murder victim himself is not qualified to testify. He would testify, so-and-so murdered me, if it would be possible. He's not qualified. So since he himself witnessed the event together with the witnesses who witnessed it, he should be seen as part of those who saw the incident, the event. He should disqualify the 2 who actually witnessed the event. The victim, if I lend somebody money, and then if I come with a claim, I say, you owe me 100, am I a qualified witness? And the man denies he ever borrowed. And I said he did lend me. It's your word against my word. 2 witnesses come, right? And they testify, they're believed. Right? It's the basis is called a nogea bedover. Nogea means I have a conflict of interest because that has relevance to me. Therefore, you're not believed. So over here, the Gemara originally understood that anybody who's not qualified to be a witness, if he witnesses it together with witnesses who are qualified, that should disqualify the witness, the group of witnesses. So Gemara quotes a pasuk. The Gemara says, "B'mekaymi adover kosav daber." Meaning, when the Torah disqualifies witnesses, it's witnesses who are not part of the event. It's not the ones who are part of the testimony. What is the testimony? Reuven killed Shimon. So Shimon is the event. He's the murder victim. So when the Torah speaks about disqualifying witnesses, it's speaking people who are not involved, not relevant to the event that takes place. That's Mekaymi Adover Kosim Medaber. That's called Nogea. Nogea does not disqualify the group. It's only Karvu Puzzle. If he's related or he has another basis to disqualify him, such as a thief or some other, all the disqualifications which are mentioned in the Mishnah in Sanhedrin. Okay? That's the Gemara. So we have a Psul Nogea. Nogea means you have a conflict of interest. Itmar. Rav Omar Shliach Nasaid. Rav says that an agent could be a witness. Okay? What is the application of this? A person appoints a shliach to Mekadosh Isha for him to marry a woman, and there's only one other qualified person to be an aid on the marriage. The shliach together with that one other person. So the shliach says, Harei Mukudeshesli, Betabas, I'm marrying you on behalf of whoever the person he's representing. And he, together with third party, and they both witness, the person who's marrying, of course he witnesses it. He's actually acting as the agent of the husband. So he witnesses it, and the third party witnesses it. Does the shliach qualify as a witness to validate the marriage? So Rav says yes. Shliach naseid. The agent could be the witness, although at that moment he's acting as the husband, and the husband, of course, cannot be a witness on his own marriage. But because this person is only acting as a shliach, although we say shliach sham kamoso, so what? But since factually he's not the husband, it's only as performing the marriage, but as a person he's not the husband, therefore he's qualified to be the witness. Because a husband is the baldover. He's the baldover. He's not the baldover. What do you mean? Who's the husband? Is he the husband? He's acting on behalf of the husband. He's acting on behalf of the husband. He's not the husband. The husband can't be the witness because he's the husband. Makes no difference. We'll see. We'll get to that. Has nothing to do with Palgim Dibor here. Okay? Ravam Shlich Naseid. Dvei Rav Shila Amri Ein Shlich Naseid. That the agent cannot be a witness. My time of Dvei Rav Shila. What is the base of Rav Shila? Factually, the Shliach, the agent, is not the husband. Right? Ilay Mishum Lo Omalei Hava Liaid. Is it because the husband initially did not designate the agent to be the witness on the ceremony, on the marriage? Elamiato. So meaning, Rav Shila is of the opinion that the only time a witness qualifies to be a witness, he has to be designated as a witness. The husband has to say, I want you to be a witness on behalf of myself for the marriage. He says, Elamiato. Kiddush Isha b'fnei shnayim. He says, if a man marries a woman in the presence of two people, and he didn't say to them, I designate you as my witnesses. Or you mean to say that Dvei Reb Shila, they're of the opinion it would not be a valid marriage? Right? A man is aware and the woman's aware, two witnesses are present, and he says, Harei Mukdeshes Li, I'm marrying you. And it's in the presence of two witnesses. Right? What's the halacha? You mean to say because he didn't designate those witnesses to be his witnesses on this marriage, he's not married? Of course he's married. So over here the Ran cites a Chubas of Rashba. Response from the Rashba. The Rashba says, what happens? You know, we had a mission in Sanhedrin. He doesn't bring the mission in Sanhedrin. We have a case of Mesis and Mediach. A person goes and wants to convince a person to go do idolatry. So now the question is, when a person goes and tries to draw a person to idolatry, he doesn't do it in a public setting because he realizes if there's evidence, he could be put to death. So he goes on to QT, visits a person in his home, and he says to him, you know, I have something to offer you, something very valuable. Now, and the man understands that he's being victimized, and he wants to bring proof that he's being influenced to do idolatry, which is punishable by death. So what does the Mishnah say? So it says he plants witnesses behind the fence, and he says, you know something, let's have a second meeting. Let's have a second meeting. And the witnesses are planted behind the fence watching, and they hear the conversation, how the man comes, and he tries to ensnare him and influence him, convince him to become an idolater. Now the witnesses go when they testify in court. So, and they convict him. So the Chuvas Rashba says, what would be if two witnesses happened to be behind a fence, and the two individuals, the husband and the wife, or even the husband planted witnesses behind the fence, and the woman was not aware that the witnesses were behind the fence, witnessing the event, but the husband is aware. He says, "Harei mukdesh li b'tabazu." Is she married? Is it a valid marriage? The Rashba says definitely not, because because the woman only said, "I agree," because she didn't see witnesses. She wasn't aware of the witnesses. The case of Gemara is, you're aware of the witnesses. You didn't designate the witnesses. Marriage in the presence of witnesses is marriage. So if a person and the woman are aware of the witnesses witnessing the act of marriage, then what? That's marriage. If she says she accepts it and doesn't protest, that's marriage. But if she's not aware that witnesses even exist, then it's nothing. Because the only reason why she didn't protest and she accepted it, because she understood that without witnesses, it's nothing. course, marriage is he's an agreement. Any other kinyan, no. You don't need witnesses. You don't need witnesses. Any other context, you don't need witnesses. An acquisition. I acquire something. Do I need witnesses? Or I borrow money. Do I need witnesses? I borrow money. I'm not aware witnesses or witnessing that I'm borrowing the money. And then afterwards, I deny I borrowed the money. What, the witness can't? Of course they can testify that you borrowed the money. Here, because there's a halacha, the Gemara is going to say that we say that witnesses without marriage, right? It's not, the Gemara says, there's levrure and there's lekume. Normally, testimony is verification. Marriage is more than, it's not a verification. They create the marriage. They create the marriage. So that's a separate. No, you want to review Dav Beis Ben Aleph. You do need witnesses. They have to be outside. Of course they have to be outside. Before you go into that room, you say in present with Harei Mukdeshesli Bebiyah, and then they go in. So the witnesses are aware that when you went in, since you made a statement, what you're going in, you're secluding yourself. For that purpose, when they're standing outside that door, they're aware what's going on behind those closed doors. Therefore, it's as if they're witnessing the act itself. And of course, they're the people are aware the witness is outside. Here we're talking about the woman's not aware the witnesses were planted behind the fence. So the reason why she agreed is because she didn't think it had any meaning, any value to it. So now, but the Gemara originally had said,
But if she did think there was value, it still wouldn't work.
of course, because there are no witnesses. Because she thinks she's not aware of the witnesses. Let's not get complicated. Let's stick to it. I don't want Ernie, I don't want to get involved with whole shas here. Okay? So let's talk now. The Gemara had thought that according to Reb Shila, that the reason why the shliach cannot be a witness is because he wasn't designated. So the Gemara said that's not possible. You mean to say if two witnesses witness a marriage and they're not designated by the husband, are they not witnesses? Of course they're witnesses. They're witnessing the act of marriage, and therefore the marriage is a marriage. So Rashi and Tosas cited Gemara in Sanhedrin's Gemara Shavuos also. We have a principle, Hodos Baldin Kamedim Domi, right? If a person goes and says, I owe so-and-so a certain amount of money, correct? And then afterwards, he denies he made the statement. But he originally made the statement, and it was witnessed by two witnesses. I owe Reuven $100. Let's say Reuven comes to Shimon and says, you owe me $100. He says, yes, I owe you $100. Okay? And then and there were two witnesses. And then afterwards, Reuven comes to Shimon and he says, I only give me the $100 that you admitted. So he has the right to say, Mishata Niboch. I wasn't serious. I wasn't serious when you came with a claim and I said, I agreed that you owe me Mishata Yisiboch. What's Mishata? I was joking. Just as you came with this ludicrous, absurd claim that I owed you, so I responded with the same nonsense that I owe you. But in reality, I wasn't serious in terms of my response. Whatever the reason is, okay? So he's able, but what about if he says, the man says, you owe me $100, and the two witnesses, he says, Atem Eidai, I'm going on record that I owe you the $100. If he makes that statement, I'm going on record, that he can't say I wasn't serious when I said it. So when do we say there's a question of atem edai, where you have to designate the witnesses? You're my witness. I'm going on record that I owe the money. That's in a situation where we're questioning the man's intent. Was he serious when he said it, or was he not serious? So since there's a principle to say, if a person comes with a basis claim, I'm able to respond to say, as your claim was absurd, my response was absurd, so therefore you need the designation of witnesses to indicate that when he makes that statement, that he does owe, that he's a debtor, that he's serious in what he said, in terms of his response. But marriage has nothing to do with that. Factually, marriage in the presence of witnesses is a marriage, right? Nobody came and made a claim against you. Therefore, as a result, that the marriage is a marriage. Therefore, it's not connected whatsoever. The case of Hodos Baldin has no relevance to kiddushin. No. Here the Gemara is talking about designated. Designated as witnesses. Right? You don't need designation, but the Gemara says there's no basis for designation of witnesses. Listen, what do you have to designate? A person gets married 50 years ago.
You don't need to designate the witness at least be able to identify.
When?
I don't know, whenever the question...
Let's say they're whips. That's always true. You designate them, and you can't locate them. It's the same problem as originally. Okay, we'll discuss. That's a separate. It's more in the third parak in kiddushin. Okay, so here Tosas speaks about an interesting case. Tosas quotes the Gemara in Sanhedrin. It's next to the last Tosas on the page. Pshita David kiddushin. It's understood, even if one doesn't designate witnesses. It's understood. It's marriage. Mashla mitzri lo ma'atem edai ki'im behodo. When does one have to designate witnesses to say, I go on record, you are my witnesses? That's only in regard to a self-admission that you owe money. Reuven comes to Shimon and says, you owe me $100. And he admits in the presence of two witnesses, unless the person says, Atem Edai, I go on record, at a later date, the person could say, I was only joking. I wasn't serious in my admission. Either. But this is the point I want to say. Miu, ilotoyin lotanin lay. What about a person comes, the man didn't say, I go on record. And Reuven comes with a claim to Shimon, and he brings two witnesses, and he says, you owe me $100, or whatever the amount was. And the man doesn't say, I wasn't serious. The court doesn't come to the assistance of the claimant to say, something, maybe he wasn't serious. Since he didn't openly designate the witnesses as his witnesses to say, I go on record, so maybe we should go and defend his position, even though maybe he's not adept and how to defend himself. We should. If he doesn't say anything, we don't say anything on his behalf. Unless he himself says, Mishateni Bach, we remain silent. And we allow the claimant to claim, to make the claim. What about if a person goes, people, everybody's looking for donors, right? The case in Sanhedrin speaking, Reuven comes to Shimon and says, you owe me $100. So what precipitated, you don't have to get up. They have people there. Howard, you just said. Yeah, okay. The chair is there. Okay. Howard, so eager to do a mitzvah. Okay. Eager beaver. Okay. It's interesting. The case of Mishati Niboch, Reuven comes to Shimon and says, you owe me $100. So Shimon responds, yes, I owe you $100. So there we can say Mishat. But what precipitated the admission? The claim. That precipitated it. What about a person that nothing precipitated, he comes himself, he says, I owe Reuven $100. In that case. Why did he admit it? Why should he say something if he has no reason to say it? So the Gemara says there's a concept that osi odom shlos bi'atzmo. A person doesn't want to appear that he's wealthy, because he's wealthy. Everybody wants a favor from him. They want financial favors. So a person tries to keep a low profile, and sometimes he makes statements which indicate that he's a debtor, that he owes people money. So although it seems he has money, he has so many creditors, therefore this minimizes his value. But not what precipitated. Nobody ever came to make a claim. In that case, imhoda halove b'fnei shnayim chayven iloch below tfias hamalve. A person makes an admission without the lender making any claim.
There's witnesses.
In presence of witnesses.
But nobody's
Im hoda alove b'fnei she. He didn't say atemedai. Did not say atemedai. Chayav ani loch b'lo tfias hamalver tanin alei afiu kilo toran. There, the court will come to his defense. In a case where a person makes a claim and he admits that he does owe, and when it comes to the claimant is coming to claim his claim, the man doesn't say anything, the court will not come to his defense. Say, you know, he was only joking. You come to your own defense is one thing. We will not come to your own defense. He's only doing to minimize his financial worth. Right? That's what we're speaking with. Right? Even though he doesn't say it himself. Right? We bring witnesses, and he doesn't come to his own defense. There, we will come to his own defense. But in the case where a person makes a claim, you owe me, and he admits, unless he himself says, Mishateni bach, I wasn't serious, then we will not come to his defense. What's the difference between two cases? What would you say? David, what would you say? The difference between two cases. You know, the Gemara is going to discuss a case. It's called Shavuos Heses. There's a rabbinical oath. The only Torah oath we have is either Shavuos HaShomrim, person's a custodian, or a person's a moda b'miktsas. Person makes a partial admission. Right? The Gemara says in Bav Mitzia, if I claim 100 and the person makes a partial admission, he owes me 50. He's chayav v'shua daraisa. He's obligated to take a Torah oath. Why? So the Gemara says, what's the rationale? What's the rationale? Because when the person makes the partial admission, he gives credence to the claim of the one who's making the claim. Right? I make a claim. So if you say, I owe you nothing, it's your word against my word. But if I'm giving credence to your claim to a degree, I'm saying I do owe part of what you're claiming, maybe the reason why he's not fully admitting, because he doesn't have the means. So that's the reason why he's denying the balance. But the main point is because he's giving credence to the claim of the one who's making the claim against him. No, the lover. I say I lent you 100, and you say no, you don't lend me 50. So this is niftar, this is nishba v'niftar. He swears and he's absolved. There's no such thing as of nishbon v'notlin. Nishbon v'notlin. When you swear and you collect, that's a rabbinic oath. That's rabbinically. No such thing on a Torah level. Torah says the only way you collect money, you have to have testimony. You have to have hardcore evidence, which is testimony of two witnesses. Otherwise, you cannot collect. Rabbinically, the oath is called nishbon v'notlim. You swear and you collect. All shvus d'oraisa is nishbon v'niftorim. You swear and you're absolved. Okay? But what is the case of nishbon v'niftorim? Moda b'miktsas. But let's say a person will be a kofar akol. Total denies that he owes anything. He doesn't have to swear. Rabbinically, you have to swear. Now, why do you have to swear rabbinically? Why do you have to swear rabbinically? What? What victimize? Reuven comes to me, he says, you owe me $100. I say, I owe you nothing. Rabbinically, you have to swear. Why do you have to swear? He says, I owe you nothing. So good. So the Gemara says, because there's a principle, Ein Odom Toveim Ken Yeshlo. A person doesn't make a claim. Ein Odom Toveya. A person doesn't have a tefiyah, doesn't make a claim unless there's a base for claim. It takes quite a degree of arrogance to make a claim where you have no claim. So that immediately gives us reason to believe that there's a basis for a claim. Therefore, rabbinically, the person has to swear to absolve himself. That's a rabbinic oath. On a Torah level, the person has to give credence to the claim. But rabbinically, even if there is no credence to the claim, just the person making the claim itself, Ein Odom Tovem Kein Yeshel, that's enough reason, rabbinically, you have to swear. Okay? That's the Gemara. So now what's the difference between two cases? Reuven comes to Shimon and says, you owe me $100. You owe me $100. He doesn't say Atamedai. He doesn't say, I go on record. You are my witnesses. I owe you $100. And he says, yes, I owe you $100. Later, the person, the lender, so-called lender, comes and he makes his claim, and the one who made the admission doesn't say anything. The court doesn't intervene. And they allow the man to collect whatever the admission was. In the case where nobody made it, He admitted he owes the $100. He didn't say I go on record. It was witnessed. He brought two witnesses that he admitted it. Right? He brought witnesses that he admitted it. Why did he admit it? Maybe he was only reacting to his absurd claim. But if he doesn't say I wasn't serious, he collects. We don't come to his defense and say maybe he wasn't serious. And we allow the so-called lender to collect. But in a case where the person made his own admission, nobody made a claim against him. Yeah, he went, even if he says, I owe Reuven $100, because people make such a statement because they don't want to appear that they have assets. Even if the assets, they're all liened. So therefore he doesn't have much because he wants to minimize his financial worth in the eyes of the community. In that case, even if he doesn't say, that was my objective, the court will say that's objective. Where does this come up? Where does this come up? Let's say the man dies, and now there's an estate. And now people come to collect from the estate. Come to collect from the estate. So it will be the first case. The court will not say anything. The court will allow the so-called lender to collect. Because there was a claim. In the case where the man, there was a self-admission, nobody provoked it from him, why did you make the claim? Since there's a principle that a person doesn't want to appear wealthy in the eyes of the community, so we say that was the objective. Therefore, in that case, the court will intervene and not allow the person who admitted he owed money to collect from the estate. That's the under, because there's no concept of inot tovim kein yeshlo. In the first case, even though you say it's absurd, but the fact is, there is a reason to believe that there was a basis for the claim. Because the average person doesn't have that degree of insolence to make a claim unless there's a basis for a claim. That's inot tovim kein yeshlo. Okay? Where there was a defense? Yeah, where there was nothing precipitated the admission. Which is the second case. He came forth. He says, I owe somebody. Somebody asked him, do you owe people money? He says, yeah, I owe Reuven and Shimon and Levi and Yehuda. That's what he said. I owe all these people money. And he said in the presence of witnesses. So we say, since he has reason to make such a statement, that he shouldn't appear wealthy, so therefore we'll say, the reason why he made, because there was nothing to provoke it. But in the other case, because there was a claim, the claim gives us reason to believe that there is a basis for his response. So unless he himself says it himself, we don't come and intervene on the behalf of the estate. Okay? So according to Rav holds shlich naseid, that the agent himself could be the witness, could be one of the witnesses on the marriage. Rabbi Shila says, ein shlich naseid. So we're trying to understand what's the reason, what's the rationale of Rabbi Shila. Go ahead. Well, David asked, we're going to get to Nogay in a moment. Get to Nogay. Because the Gemara is going to say, what about if the person was made an agent to deliver money, to pay a debt, right? To pay a debt. So the same thing. I mean, some Rishonim said, what about if the kiddushin was bishtar, not bekesef? What's the Nogay? You may be an agent to marry the woman with a document. Dave, do you hear? Document. It's not you gave me money. If he gave you money, so I have negiyas, because in fact, if I didn't carry out the marriage, so then you have a claim against me. You want me to return the money. So I have reason to say that I did follow instructions to marry the woman. But if you gave me a document, right, so it's something else, there's no monetary involvement. We'll see. The Gemara will discuss this in a moment. Not a moment. It will be tomorrow's discussion. So we're trying to understand what's the rationale of Dvei Reb Shilo that he says ein shlich naseid. See, the Gemara says kevdo mashluch shalom kamoso havale kegufei. Since we say shluch shalom kamoso, we see the agent as the husband. So just as the husband cannot qualify as the aid on the marriage, so since within the context of the marriage, the shliach is the husband, therefore he's not qualified to be the witness. we'll go baldover. He's a baldover. Within this context, since he's acting as the husband, although he has no personal interest, right? It's not his wife, and the result of the marriage is not, he's not a beneficiary of this to any degree. Nevertheless, since within the halachic context he's acting as the husband, he's disqualified. Okay? So it's interesting. We'll see. So what's the machlokas? What's the argument? I mean, everybody agrees. If he has an interest, he's an interested party, he's not qualified. Yet Rab says he does qualify, and Dveir B'Shila says he doesn't qualify. So what exactly is the crux of the argument over here? What exactly is the issue here? So I mentioned the Gemara in Bava Basra on Friday, just started to talk about it. Gemara says in Bava Basra, the case of the theft of the Sefer Torah. Person goes, a thief comes and steals the Sefer Torah belonging to the community. And every member of the community witnessed the theft. They witnessed the theft. So every member of the community has a financial interest in the Sefer Torah. So that means every person is a nogeya. He has a conflict. So therefore, how do you convict the thief? So the Gemara says that two of the members of the community should relinquish their rights, their ownership of the Sefer Torah. So they're no longer nogeya. They no longer have a conflict of interest. Of course, they no longer have a financial interest in the Sefer Torah. Now they could testify as uninvolved parties, and they're able to convict the thief. Wait a second. No. They've relinquished it. They've relinquished it. Wait. I'm just quoting the Gemara. Quoting Gemara. So Tosei asks a question. The halacha is if a person initially is related and then becomes unrelated, right? Person was a son. Gemara Sanhedrin says a person's a son-in-law of a man, and he lent a person money. Ruvain lent money to Shimon, and his father-in-law witnessed the loan. So, of course, the father-in-law is related. It's his father-in-law. Subsequently, the man's wife dies. The lender's wife dies. So now the father-in-law is no longer his father-in-law. Does the father-in-law qualify together with another party to testify on his behalf? It's no longer his father-in-law. So the Gemara says he's not qualified. Because we said, Chilosa b'psul v'sofa b'kashrus. If initially when he witnessed the event, he was not qualified, even though now he is qualified, he's not qualified. You have to be consistently qualified from the time that you witnessed it to the testimony. So Tosfos asks, so if when they witnessed the event, there were no gebeidus, the Sefer Torah, the theft, they were just not qualified to testify. So now, even though they relinquished their share, they should still not be qualified. Because initially, when they witnessed the event, they weren't qualified to testify. That's Tosfos' question. That's only if the farmer has a claim against them. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. Okay, that was a joke. I wasn't serious on that. Okay. Wait, but so Tosfos answers that the psul, the disqualification of tchilosa pasl, sofa b'kashrus, that you have to be consistently qualified from beginning to end, that's only if it's a psul edus. If your classification is witness, and you're not a qualified witness. Nogeya, he's not qualified as a witness. His classification is not witness. Since you're a party regarding the issue, you're not a witness. He's not a character. Meaning, if your classification is witness and you're not a qualified witness, then we say you have to be consistently qualified as a witness. But a Nogeya is not classified as a witness because he's one of the defendants. Therefore, this disqualification doesn't apply. That's Tosfos' answer. Right, wait. So firstly, you see one thing from Tosfos. It has relevance to this. What exactly is the psul nogeya? Let's see, in that case. Why should two wet people, because they have a financial share in the Sefer Torah, why does the Torah disqualify a person who has a conflict of interest? So you could say, because the conflict doesn't allow him to, because of the conflict, he doesn't see accurately. Right, we question the accuracy of his testimony. Because of his conflict, right, he may actually not see clearly. Or do we say, no, this Gzeres HaKosov has nothing to do with that. Gzeres HaKosov. The Gzeres HaKosov is that a Nogea is not qualified. A defendant is not qualified to testify. Wait, so if it's a question he didn't see accurately initially because of his conflict of interest, so even if he relinquishes, what is he testifying now what he witnessed initially? Correct? So if that's the case, so even today there's no longer conflicted, but what is he testifying about? What originally he had seen. And yet, the Gemara says he's qualified to testify. Once he's no longer conflicted. So what do we see from the Gemara? What exactly is the disqualification of a Nogea? It's not because he doesn't see accurately. There's Gzeres HaKosov, a defendant that's not qualified to testify. That's what there's Gzeres HaKosov. That's what the Torah is saying. Therefore, once he relinquishes his right, and that's no longer his classification, therefore he's qualified to testify. Right? You see that clearly from Tosas. So now over here, why do we want to disqualify the shliach? He has a conflict. Now, does he really have a conflict? Or it's within a halachic context, he's the husband? What exactly is the disqualification of Nogea? If it's a question in the reality as a conflict, reality, it's not his wife. It's not his wife. He's representing the person who commissioned him to do the act of marriage. But what actually is the result of his action? It's not his wife. His action is attributed to the third party, that she's married to the third party. She's not married to him. Even though, as an agent, he's acting as the other party, but there's no personal involvement on a personal level. The other ones, it doesn't make a difference. The disqualification of Nogea is as long as you have any level of representation that you are him, that's enough to disqualify you, even though it has no relevance to you on a personal level. That's the machlokas Rav and Ton Rabbi Shila. We'll see the Gemara comes out lahalocha. We hold shliach nasa'id. That if you have no conflict of interest, there's not a basis for it, because it's not really your wife. You qualify to be the agent, to be the witness, although you're acting as the husband. That's the conclusion of the Gemara. We rule like Rav, shliach is nasa'id. We have another minute. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. There he originally said, "What about my daughter?" Avram says it's not for discussion. So there's no conflict. Just the opposite. Here he's coming back. He's marrying. He's acting something which is contrary to his interest. But it's not relevant. It's not relevant. The conflict then has to be regarding what you're doing. Right? To testify what you did. That's your conflict of interest. I buy a piece of property and I say, I bought the property. So that's the conflict of interest. But because you bought a piece of property elsewhere, originally you wanted the property, and for whatever reason the seller wasn't satisfied with your offer, and now we sell it to a third party, and you're representing a third party. So why can't you represent the third party? You have no conflict. You added the discussion. If your price that you offered is not acceptable, so you're not part of the discussion any longer. Eliezer is not part of the discussion any longer. His daughter was rejected. To be continued.